Which character is not technically a villain but is actually worse? Jerry from Tom and Jerry. That little evasive demonic rascal needed to mind its own business. The older I got, the more I identified with Monsieur Jerry was a nuisance. He's that annoying kid in middle school who you finally tell to fuck off and get in trouble with. The teacher. The dog. Tom was a house cat. His job was to protect the house from intruders and rodents. Most of the time he was just chilling, taking a nap or trying to woo a lady cat until Jerry's asshattery resulted in things being broken, and Tom being smacked with a broom by the owner and forced outside. Sometimes we saw Tom showing consideration and care for the other animals, whilst Jerry often fucked Tom over and talked a bunch of shit to that dog so it would beat Tom up. I remember one episode that made me furious even as a kid. It was raining. Tom was inside by the fire and saw Jerry and that sweet little duck shivering out in the cold rain. He felt bad for them and let them come inside. Jerry immediately goes into asshole mode and disturbs a bunch of shit, and the episode ended with Tom outside getting wet while that little cunt Jerry was curled up by the fireplace with his shit-eating grin. Caitlin Stark. She ditched her kids back at Winterfell. She captured Tyrion, enraging the Lannisters. She let Jaime go, losing her own bargaining chip. She pushed Robb into a leadership role and then consistently undermined him. And she thinks fondly of Littlefinger, but hates Jon Snow. She was a complete mess. I agree on most points, but her hatred of Jon Snow is kind of understandable in the context of Westerosi politics. It's pretty much expected for lords to have mistresses and even sire bastards. But to bring your bastard to court and raise him or her as if they were one of your trueborn children is almost unheard of, and can be seen as a huge insult to your wife. In the books it's explained that she has forgiven Ned because they hardly knew each other at the time. She just hates Jon for being born, which is dumb and evil of her. Dumbledore. Now listen. He spent the entire series plotting to have Harry die. He constantly lied and manipulated people to get what he wanted. So while Dumbledore is classified as a villain, he is certainly bad enough to be one. Dumbledore consistently justifies doing pretty horrible things in the name of the greater good. He hides it behind his charming quirks, but he's definitely got a monstrous streak. I was thinking Cornelius Fudge. A prime minister who ignores facts and reason because he's afraid, surrounds himself with sycophants because he's insecure, and misleads an entire nation because he's more concerned with saving his job and reputation than he is with protecting anyone, and everyone else ends up paying for it. He's not evil or a villain, just weak. Knows Voldemort is after the Sorcerer's Stone. Makes the traps surrounding it easy enough for first years to bypass. Knows who opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago. Does not tell anyone. Can use magic to clean any mess in the castle instantly. Males filch you it physically. Harry breaks each rule. 9,000 points to Gryffindor. Glinda from The Wizard of Oz. Manipulated Dorothy to get rid of her political rivals and then sent Dorothy off. Exactly. If she actually wanted to help, wouldn't she have just told Dorothy to click her heels and whatnot right then and there instead of endangering her life? Because she wouldn't have believed me, bitch. I might have. She might have tried it anyway, since the effort involved in clicking your heels together is pretty low. If a magic fairy appears to me right this second and says, all your debts will vanish if you twirl around in a counterclockwise circle, I think I'm probably having an isolation-induced hallucination. But I'm gonna twirl just in case. Nate, the boyfriend from The Devil Wears Prada. Unsupportive and immature. TBH, all of Andy's friends were awful too. Nate's the worst character in this movie, and the title references the devil. Belittling her work at a prestigious company. Complaining that she missed his birthday. What is he, 7? And complaining about how much she works when he's an aspiring chef in New York City. Have fun waking up at 2 a.m. to chop onions. You fuck Nate? That's what always bugged me. Dude's a chef. He's working longer hours than she is for probably less pay and harder work. His complaint should be that it's bullshit she's complaining as much as she is when he objectively has it worse. Agreed. I was watching this the other day and can't help but get annoyed with the monsieur they were never understanding, and the scene where they passed Andy's phone around pissed me off a lot. SpongeBob, we're all Squidward. In a similar vein, I think Mr. Krabs deserves a mention here. He's a cheap, stingy miser. He and Plankton are both ruthless toward one another in a way that most real-life competitors rarely are in the business world. He's so determined to get rid of Plankton that he exploited Plankton's fear of whales to the point that Plankton attempted suicide. Sure, Plankton is supposed to be the real villain, but Mr. Krabs has been pretty sleazy at times. Him and Patrick ruining Squidward's peace and quiet really ticks me off now. Grandpa fucking Joe. Grandpa Joe when his family is dirt poor and falling apart at the seams. No, I won't do anything. I'll just lie in bed and be a waste of food. Grandpa Joe when his son finds a yellow piece of paper in a chocolate bar. Ooh, I'll help. I'll do it. Quote. Our Grandpa Joe hate. The Griffins from Family Guy. The more you watch, the more you realize that the Griffins are horrible people. Especially Peter. Meg is the only good one. And she's been so emotionally mangled by decades of horrific abuse that she's become an emotional Galou monsieur. She can be kinda a shitty person too though. She kidnapped both Brian and Joe at one point and tried to force herself on them or something. And even tried to drug Chris for a gay friend that had a crush on Hi Monsieur. Disney is the greater than final villain. Less than Mace Windu Star Wars. He refuses to train Anakin and consistently doubts him to his face. Acting as though he isn't in the room, Monsieur, he judges him for missing and fearing for his mother. Despite him being a child. Throughout his life, Mace criticizes Anakin or denies him opportunities and refuses to trust him even when he tells the Council about Palpatine, so when Anakin chooses to kill Mace instead of Palpatine, who has been nothing but kind to him, he really shouldn't be surprised. What makes it worse is the Clone Wars TV show, which shows that Mace has witnessed how capable, loyal and trustworthy Anakin is. Furthermore, in the Clone Wars, Mace is the main reason Ahsoka is expelled from the Order and then tries to give some BLSHT excuse about the Force's will rather than apologizing. How you can be that much of a D***CK to someone and still try to take the moral high ground. If I had to blame a single person for the creation of Darth Vader, I'd blame Mace Windu, even above Palpatine. Greater than Anakin. Greater than honorable. What? He was everything but honorable. Anakin was an arrogant asshole who felt like he was entitled to everything. Did we not watch episode 2 where he literally fucking blames Obi-Wan for holding him back? In the Clone Wars his arrogance was toned down but still there. Mace was literally right to not trust Annie. He didn't deserve it. Well, Clone Wars is after 2. So there's an argument to be made for character development. It's clear Anakin has done nothing but help up until then, and his lack of trust and emotional support is all of the reason why this powerful orphan trying to save those he loves turned away. Windu definitely embodies the benevolent arrogance of the Jedi like nobody else. Star-Lord from Infinity War. But in the long game Thanos was defeated and Doctor Strange said there was only one path that would lead to that. Star-Lord was supposed to do what he did. Right? No. He just fucks up the plan in every conceivable iteration. Only one path manages to fix it. After watching Infinity War and Endgame, I told my friend that Doctor Strange was a genius but somehow didn't think to make a portal to send Quill to Earth to buy drinks for everybody or something, while Iron Man and Spider-Man took the Infinity Gauntlet because the film needed him to get angry and fuck up the plan. God forbid it would be the other heroes who had to fuck up. Can't be Tony or Spider-Man or Doctor Strange. I mean, Star-Lord is fucked up to hell. His father killed his mother. He grew up among abusive pirates. His father tried to kill him. He was used as a battery to destroy the entire universe. His father figure died saving High Monsieur. Losing the love of his life would obviously send him over the edge. The Avengers needed a mental health plan like 6 movies ago. Parents, teachers, bosses, political and religious leaders who lie because they're lazy or it's in their interest. Their choices makes the world a poorer place, both morally and financially. Especially parents, because I said so destroys your kids' critical thinking skills and causes them to never question any authority. While that might be helpful to the parent, it could ruin the kid's life. It's true that you should try to explain things to children, but kids aren't exactly known for being rational. And sometimes things are too important or there isn't time to explain. And the parent has to have the authority to make things happen because they said so. And yes, having an explanation for most things can help establish that trust and authority. But it's the fantasy to say that a kid should expect a satisfying to the kid reason for absolutely everything. At this point, pretty much every character in Family Guy, any adult in the series of unfortunate events series that isn't Count Olaf, either for not believing the kids, not giving them information that could help because secret reasons, or for expecting way too much from literal children. That's kind of the point. In the prequel book series All the Wrong Questions, we see strong, capable versions of Hector and Josephine, and someone else I think. And if I remember correctly, it's implied that Olaf is working with them despite negative feelings. The whole idea is that all these kids are in BFD, which is basically a cult that kidnaps rich children, murders their parents, gaslights them about it, and steals their money for their own purposes. Then when there is a schism, presumably over the murder and stealing and arson, all the children involved are ruined and they become the awful adults we see in ASOUE. Even people like Kit Snicket, who the children believe to be good, are often not. Kit intentionally manipulates the children into joining her cause and using them for her own purposes. Even Lemony is a jerk who stalks the orphans in real time for the first 4 books or so without helping them because he thinks their mother is still alive and wants to hit her up. To see a lot of this, you have to read some of the extra material like the Bad Beginning Special Edition and whatever that extra book released on this is called. Shock Snicket though is an angel. He's actually a nice guy. Mr. Poe is just an idiot. Ponyboy Curtis. Had he not acted overdramatic and run away, the chain of events that led to Johnny Cade and Dallas Winston's deaths may not have occurred. I blame the school teacher. Why were school children taking a field trip to an old abandoned church in the middle of nowhere? Good point. I used to hate Jerry, but now that I think about it, if Ponyboy wasn't such a fucking whiny bitch, none of that would have happened and 3 people wouldn't have fucking died. And let's remember the kids that almost burned alive because he decided to smoke in an old church, and how all the fights he and Jerry had affected Soda Pop. Greg Heffley, what an asshole. We aren't supposed to like him. Jeff said he designed Greg by taking his teenage self and removing all his good traits. Movie Greg is a fucking saint compared to book Greg. Ted Mosby. This man had issues and had ridiculous standards for women. Whenever I see his name written out, my mind immediately jumps to Mr. Mosby from Sweet Life. This will be controversial, but Joy from Inside Out. She's an obsessive, condescending control freak. Instead of letting Riley develop naturally and just letting her feel her feelings, she constantly puts down sadness and bullies. Leads the others into ignoring her and doing things her way. Instead of sharing the duties with the other feelings, she gets agitated if someone is the head of the control panel for more than a second and quite literally shoves and elbows her way in. Joy's need for control, a following of sycophants, and to be number 1 in Riley's life leads to giving Riley an emotional breakdown, almost destroying her and putting her in danger. It's not until the consequences of her actions directly affect her that she changes her course of action. But until then she's very much a "screw everyone, I'm in control and if everyone would just listen to and follow me then things will work out" type of person. Even after the bad shit that happens to the other feelings, and even Riley herself, Joy refuses to consider another point of view, let alone that she is in the wrong, until it almost kills her and ends up killing Bing Bong. I love the movie, and yes, I get that one of the points is that Riley is a child, so her emotional and mental health is not fully mature or developed, but that doesn't change the fact that I have a serious problem with Joy. Can't stand her. When I saw that movie, I thought the same thing. But I also thought that was the point. Joy looks like she's supposed to be presented and interpreted this way, to show how harmful a mentality this is, which I take to be a general rule, not just emotional. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.